Hey guys, welcome to your channel. I'm going to give you some guidelines regarding article from today's Hindu newspaper. So let's begin with a very beautiful quotation found in one article from today's Hindu newspaper. The quotation is, "Those who forget history are bound to repeat it." The article shows the significance and importance of history. You might find this kind of quotation in essay paper, and you can apply it not only in terms of history. History means not only the kings and queens, but also in terms of various repetitions. Right, it might be in politics, it might be in other educational perspective. Mean when you consider this thing, you have to consider, you can consider it in terms of history, in terms of our monuments, kings and queens, historical eras, politics, educations, as well as some other purposes also. So this is a very good and meaningful quotation which you can apply multidimensionally, and you might find the whole essay actually from this quotation. Another important article is related to environment and ecology. This article is from the national column of today's Hindu newspaper. In a first, East Asian birds make Andaman stopover. This article is related to migratory birds. When it relates to migratory birds, the topics we can cover from this article is international convention related to migratory species, threats posed by the migratory species, and conservation efforts taken internationally for preserving migratory species, and flyway concept and measure flyways as determined for international migratory birds. So there are various obstacles in case of migratory birds. They actually cross the international boundary. So each country has various environmental legislation, various legislation across the border, natural calamity, climate change, hunting, adaptable environment, habitat destruction, various diseases. These are some threats actually posed by migratory species. When you say migratory species, there is a concept that is called flyway concept. So what is flyway concept? Flyway means what? A route adopted by migratory birds during a span of nesting or breeding and resting is called a flyway. Means when they travel from one place to another place for the purpose of nesting, right, and for the purpose of hatching, and after that process when they return, the path that covers these two purposes is actually called a flyway. The International Weather Study Group has determined some flyway across the world. These flyways are mainly existed in America, Africa, Europe, Central Asia, and East Asian Australia. So you might find questions for mains from this article actually. So you have to mention this thing, that what is flyway concept, that what are the major flyways across the world for migratory species. These things you have to mention in your answer actually. So while we say Asia, the main major flyways for birds in Asia are West Pacific, East Asian Australian. This is the major flyway in for birds in Asia, and Central Asian. These are three major flyway routes in Asia determined for migratory birds. Then we have to find out that what is the international convention related to migratory species. It is the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. It is also known as Convention on Migratory Species, Bonn Convention, or Global Wildlife Concerns. This is important. The article has brought the context of this convention. And the purpose of this convention is to preserve migratory birds in terms of terrestrial, marine, and avian. So when we have come to this topic, we have to also keep notice of some international wildlife conventions to which India is a signatory, or to which India is a part. There is a convention called CITES. This convention is related with illegal wildlife trade crossing international border. Then IUCN, International Whale Commission, UNESCO World Heritage Commission, and Convention of Migratory Species. India is a part of all these international conventions. Then coming to the point, if you are trying to find out to add some points, then why we need preservation for migratory birds. There are some points I have added here. Saving from extinction, preserving of critical stopovers. There is no need to explain every point, it is very clear. Strengthening local and national infrastructure for the preservation of migratory birds, and research and policy framework. Coming to the article, in article you will find some kind of various bird species mentioned. I personally advise you not to ponder very depth, because it is very difficult to remember the every minute details of the every bird species. That is why even if you remember, you will not be able to memorize in the exam hall. That is why try to memorize it, try to find out in this way, so that in some cases you can remember after having seen the name. And in mains answer writing, for the reference point of view, actually you can remember these three bird species and try to note down from where they have come, what are their migratory species, and yeah, origin, destination, and migratory route taken by each bird species, so that you can refer them in your answer to justify your answer. And here it is important, bronze cuckoo, because it is for the first time has been spotted in Andaman. Coming to another article, expropriation in the name of conservation. I have already mentioned the similar topic in my previous Hindu newspaper article of Saturday. So go to my previous newspaper analysis of Saturday, where I have analyzed in a detailed way about the pros and cons of Forest Right Amendment Act 2019. Here I have summarized some points which are ready-made points made by me, which you can directly put in your answer, or these are, you can call the point based on analysis. These points are, so what are the critical points of this Forest Right Amendment Act 2019? That it harms the sustainable relationship between habitats and forest. It turns forest into a bureaucratic mess up. It has imbued colonial perspective. It turns forest into private and profit motive purposes. For example, you can refer here production forest. It has harasses the forest dwellers from various perspectives. And to show how each you can explain each point, you can go to my previous Hindu lecture. By enhancing the definition of forest, it engrosses any land as forest land, creating conflict between property rights and forest right. Section 26 has allowed Forest Department officers to suspend the right to pasture or collect or collect forest product by the Adivasi. Section 22A2. Under this section, government can acquire any right of a person inconsistent with the conservation of proposed reserve forest, but here the word inconsistent is not defined, so that is why it creates controversy, that in what extent it will be considered as inconsistent. There is a blur between encroachment and forest. That means in what cases it will be considered an encroachment on forest land, nothing defined transparent way. It tries to take away the power of Gram Sabha given under Panchayat extension to Scheduled Area Act 1996, and thereby it has centralized the management of forest, diminishing the role of specialization. It poses threat to internal security. It is very important because most of the provisions are harassing to the tribal Adivasi dwellers, and in most cases it has provisions taken against forest dwellers without any arrest warrant, or in an anarchic way. They can arrest any persons on suspicion of violating forest rules, on suspicion of forest crimes. So this is a very autocratic, anarchic provisions in the act, which might which might incite the traditional forest dwellers, and how it is a very dangerous threat, because it might compel them to find out some alternative way. For example, in Adivasi forest area, they might join in some revolutionary forces, Maoist forces. So thereby it might pose threat to internal security. Another some provisions which you can add under the head of like colonial perspectives, yeah, a bureaucratic mess up, yeah, police state. So preventive detention. Preventive detention means what? Without any arrest warrant, on the basis of suspicion, yeah, on the basis of violating forest law, without any arrest warrant, a forest official, yeah, local police can arrest any forest dweller, yeah, arrest any person. And use of firearms in an uncontrolled way, right, to against the suspected persons. These are some provisions which bears colonial perspective, and anarchic provisions which are nothing but to and enhance the atrocities of the forest dwellers. So as a whole, the what concerns, see, in UPSC while you write answers, right, marks generally come to you in terms of your own analysis power, how you are analyzing the topic from various perspectives relating to the contemporary issues. Forest Act Amendment 2019 has various concerns like social, security, environment, and administrative concern. In case of social, you can say it creates conflict between individual and forest right. In case of insecurity, we already have seen that it takes away the livelihood from forest dwellers. It imposes unnecessary burden, and it imposes atrocious nature of administration on the forest dweller, which might compel the forest dweller to join some antisocial forces. It has some environmental provisions, concerns like it is anarchic, and it destroys the inborn relationship between nature and habitat. In that way, some administrative concern. How administrative concern? Because the whole act is over bureaucratization, and in this way it turns from a policy to police state. In this way you can analyze, and as I have already told you, you can refer to my Saturday Hindu analysis to get more details regarding the Forest Right Amendment Act 2019. This lecture regarding Forest Right 2000 Amendment, Forest Right Amendment 2019 Amendment is a summary, means analysis point of view. Here I have avoided some facts which I have already mentioned in my previous lecture.